In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, and when we look at the models today, we're going to be seeing a warmer trend also from the National Weather Service, kind of what I've been calling for and talking about throughout the videos, although the models and the National Weather Service hasn't been showing it as much. I've felt that that's the premise overall moving into March, and we're seeing a little bit of a warmer trend as far as how that early March to mid-March timeframe looks. There will be snowfall opportunities in there, but listen, when we look at the models, there's going to be a little bit less of it showing up. More of it is going to be the type of situations, if you watch my videos, where we see a low and we see the cold, but they're just not connecting. So we have a couple of chances like that, which obviously aren't going to be as big of chances as if we saw the models literally showing snow on the map. So there is potential for snowfall. It's a little bit less because of this warmer air, but there is colder times. Imagine it as kind of a back and forth is how I look at it. We will see multiple thunderstorm and severe weather chances, even as far northward as the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. So we're going to be seeing more of that springtime weather moving in. Of course, March 1st, my birthday, actually marks the first day of meteorological spring. And as far as weather is concerned, typically the meteorological months reflect the weather much better, obviously, than the calendar months. So that's why we use it here. Typically March 1st is already when we're seeing the warming trend. Typically throughout February, it's a slow warming trend and we're already in that. But March is going to be a big one. April is going to be a big one. And obviously May as well in the warming department. So let's take a look at it. We have the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here. And this is going to be for the 1st through the 5th of March. So now we're only looking at March on these outlooks from this point forward, basically. And we can see there's a little area of near normal conditions near the southwest coast, but really the entire west and central and even some of the interior eastern states, which is what I would probably call these areas, are expected to be above normal. And if you've been keeping up with the videos, this was much further west just a day or two ago. We do still see parts of the very far northern mid-Atlantic and even into the northeast below normal. But this is much more limited than what we saw before, near normal in areas further south. So this could really swing either way. Again, it's going to be a lot of back and forth in here, so no surprise there. When we look at the precipitation, because of this overall warming trend, and you can imagine air moving from the south up northward up the east coast, that is actually going to encourage above normal precipitation as we get a lot of this moisture and precipitation drawing into a lot of these areas. So we do expect actually for really the majority of the nation above normal precipitation, but these areas are looking a little wetter than they did before. The 8 to 14 day outlook, we do see the warmth move back considerably. We do see the west is much colder though, so we see this cooling trend here, which for those of you that pay attention, it looks like a negative PNA. But when we look at Alaska here, because PNA is not just for America or United States, it's for the entire area of North America. So typically for a negative PNA, what we're looking for is colder temperatures from Alaska southward all the way through Canada, Western Canada, the Western United States, and even down into Western Mexico. What we're seeing is mostly cooler temperatures here in America, but what we can see is that for Alaska, which I guess is also America, so I don't know why I said it that way, but the lower 48 here, Alaska is much warmer, so I would look at this as much more of a neutral PNA. It's not stretching all the way up the coast, all the way up through Canada and into Alaska, clearly. So that's why we have this large near normal area. I think that we could see large fluctuations, and that's more indicative of a kind of neutral PNA. We do see warmer temperatures, and I would probably say that most of these areas will probably be warmer, and probably most of these areas will be cooler. So we're going to be seeing a large south to north kind of difference, which you might think that that's typical, but we're seeing more of a difference, more contrast than what's typical here. And this is going to allow for a lot of these areas to see some thunderstorms, severe weather in here as we see the cold move in, the warmth move in, back and forth. That's going to create a lot of instability. When we look at the precipitation, we see that the entire eastern seaboard starts to really get going with above normal precipitation during this 3rd through 9th time frame. But still, a lot of the west also is going to be above normal as well, as you can see. So really just a wetter trend throughout the lower 48 overall through the next couple of weeks. With all that being said, here's the past 20 days, which is going to be the 4th through the 24th of February. We've seen a little bit of warmth throughout the southwest. The northwest has been cold, though, and then especially for the Rockies eastward into the plains, we have been far, far, far below normal. We've also seen a lot of these areas trending colder with our most recent cool down, so that we expect this to kind of continue, although we do have some warmer days coming up for the final 3 or 4 days of February. So I think that this is somewhat close to what we're going to see as a final look for February overall. We do see a little bit of a southeast ridge that has been present, and again, over the coming days, we will see these areas be much warmer at times. So this might actually get a little bit more expansive, the warm area, maybe encapsulating more so like this. We'll have to see what it looks like once the month is said and done. Now, as we take a look here at the European model, what we're going to see is by the time we're looking at this afternoon, I mean, I'll move us towards this evening. This is 10 p.m. tonight, Tuesday, February 20, or yeah, it's going to be actually February 24th. I'm looking at the top right of my screen here, but over here we can see clearly it is February 24th, 10 p.m. Monday today. We see a pretty impactful storm system moving in towards the northwest. This is a 995, and there's actually lower pressure to the west of it, more offshore. So this is a pretty strong system, and we're seeing snowfall for the mountains, rainfall for the lower elevations. We do see some showers and thunderstorms taking place across Florida as well, but pretty uneventful overall. As we move towards Tuesday afternoon, tomorrow, February 25th, we do see some showery activity both in the forms of rainfall and snowfall here for a lot of the northwest and north central states, as well as parts of the northeast here. But again, still nothing major. The only major storm on screen here is actually well offshore of the southeast coast, which if this was tracking straight up the coast, I would tell you that we would have potential in these areas to see snowfall, but it's just way too far offshore. We've been talking about that one for a while, but it's just really, really well offshore. By the time we're looking at Wednesday on the 26th of February, we do see rainfall and snowfall showers throughout a lot of the plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley here. Much quieter outside of that, and really this still isn't that major. Probably some thunderstorms happening on this end of things. The low is here, and we kind of have a cold front look here. A little bit more of a horizontal one, but I would imagine there could be some thunderstorms, if not showers, happening across this area by Wednesday. As we look at Thursday here, a lot of that thunderstorm activity moves towards the mid-Atlantic coast. Some of the southeast here, like South Carolina, North Carolina, and even maybe southern New England, seeing some heavier showers, maybe even thunderstorms, depending on how warm it gets on Thursday. Much quieter out west, and there is some snowfall for the higher elevations in more northern areas, as you can see. Pretty strong low, 997, but a less impactful one. There's not a lot of heavy precipitation with this one, which is why I always tell you guys, you know, you can see a weaker low with major impacts, and you can see a major low with weaker impacts. It doesn't matter as much as it seems like. Typically, obviously, as a rule of thumb, the stronger the low, the more impactful it is, but that's not true every single time. And this is one of those good examples of that. Let's take a look at Friday afternoon, and this is when we start to get some clipper activity going. We see this 988 up there in Canada, bringing some pretty substantial snowfall to areas in Canada. And we have colder air overall for these pockets. The theme is going to be these troughs that are pretty flat and mostly just impacting parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast primarily, which is why the National Weather Service is calling for colder temperatures. So let's see how this one moves in. This is later on Friday. We see parts of Michigan get snowfall, and even New York and New England on the front end, but this low goes just to the north of New England. So we end up with some interior northeast snowfall here, even mixed precipitation, so it's not the snowiest look in the world. And then for these more coastal and southern areas, mostly rainfall there, although it is pulling in a lot of cooler air for Sunday on the 2nd here, which looks to be a pretty cold day. But as we move towards Monday afternoon, what we're seeing is one of our first more substantial lows outside of that clipper, which really is mostly a Canadian system, as you could tell. We do see 995 here over Colorado, and this is bringing quite a bit of Rocky Mountain snowfall and also just the broad low pressure in general, and probably a warm front here is pulling up a lot of Gulf moisture and thunderstorms here into the south central and deeper south areas. So that's why we have this going on, which is likely a lot of thunderstorm activity to the east of this low. Again, Monday the 3rd there. As we take this towards Tuesday the 4th, we see this system just explodes. 994 over eastern Kansas, some snowfall on the western end, mostly the northwestern end. And then we have this dragging cold front here. Again, the warm front is way up to the north here, clearly. So we are seeing thunderstorms primarily in this area here: Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, southern Missouri perhaps, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, maybe even Alabama by this point. Probably going to be a pretty big severe weather threat. We're obviously still quite a ways away from this, beyond 5 days, but I would imagine that this has pretty deep potential to be one of our first more major severe weather events. We've had a couple this year, so this would probably be the second or third more elevated severe weather risk if it pans out this way. So we'll be watching this very, very closely for these areas here. Even areas in Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana could see some thunderstorms or severe weather, but typically I'm keying in on the areas south of the low. So that's why I've drawn this line here. Areas to the south of this, I would say, is the biggest threat for that severe weather. Now, as we keep going, I'm going to take this towards Wednesday. We see that this does bring impacts to the eastern seaboard. 977 over Michigan there. Cold front dragging in behind. And we see thunderstorms and showers perhaps as far northward as the mid-Atlantic or even parts of the northeast, but especially here in the southeast and southern mid-Atlantic. We'll be watching for thunderstorms and severe weather during this portion of this storm as well. And although it's far out, it's between 7 and 10 days out, the models have been super consistent with showing a storm like this at this range between kind of like the 4th and 6th. So I'm taking it pretty seriously. I think this storm in some shape or form is very likely to happen. So we'll be watching it closely. You can see that behind this cold front, we do usher in a new blast of cold air. So again, back and forth is the theme here. Warmer days and colder days. We're going to see one of these colder days for Thursday here, as you can see. As that low moves out, the cold front moves through. Thursday afternoon is likely very cool in the eastern states, as we have a significant trough moving in behind that low. Even some lake effect snowfall looks like happening around the lakes. So yeah, pretty impactful. As we move towards Friday afternoon, we're quieter. There is a strong-ish low, 998 here, bringing some showers to the north of it. Typically, again, we're watching south of there. There's not much activity yet happening. It's a pretty strong low, not bringing super impactful conditions yet. So we'll see here as we move towards Saturday the 8th if we start to get some more. But really, this low moves southward, which doesn't give much room for much activity. I'm sure there would be thunderstorms in here, but it doesn't look super crazy. We actually see it move around and underneath everything. So what we see is kind of like this. 994 off of the Outer Banks. This would have potential, especially, I mean, when we look at the blue lines, I mean, we have plenty of cold up for these areas, and this low is awfully close. So this is one that we really have to watch around the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast if the trend continues for cold air during this time, and also coastal storms. Definitely, we're beyond 10 days, so you want to take it with a grain of salt, but if we get anything like this, anything that looks even close to this, this would likely be a snowfall threat at the very least for these eastern areas, and maybe one of the last ones as we're moving into mid-March. As we take a look at the northwest, again, another snow system out there for a lot of the mountainous west. Huge snowfall, so early March might be still snowy for these areas. And look at this. It's a little too far offshore, 975, but we get heavy snowfall just offshore of New England. So again, potential is there for sure. We get a 985 over the Dakotas, which is strong, but again, it's another strong low with weak impacts at this point, which is very far out, might I add. We start to get much more impactful weather as we move forward towards like Tuesday morning here, 981. Clearly there's an extended cold front coming off of this low, and this would pose another severe weather threat likely for these areas. Pretty much everybody's underneath the low, so this one could be impacting Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Pretty widespread event and heavy snowfall in the west. So we are picking up trends that there's going to be very snowy times ahead for the mountainous west, and also these middle of the nation stronger lows. This is like the third or fourth one on this model run. So with that trend in mind, I do expect western snowfall to really pick up, and also severe weather threats throughout the central and eastern states are both going to be on the rise as we move right into early and mid-March. This is above average activity for this time of year. Let's take a look at the GFS model. I want to see where we get agreement and disagreement as we kind of just move through. This Clipper system's a little weaker, but also brings further south impacts here. We see 997 there over the Dakotas. It brings Midwest, Upper Midwest, and Great Lakes snowfall there. Pretty heavy too. And then straight into the Northeast. This is obviously a much more impactful system than the European model showed. We are getting plowable snowfall likely from this event for, March 1st through 2nd. Definitely something to watch for. As we keep going, we see that this storm builds just like the European model. Again, here's the 5th. We see this 986 over eastern Iowa. Potential for thunderstorms and severe weather will be present out to the east of this one. Let's keep going a little bit further. And as you can see, this does reach the East Coast the same way. So the southeast up into the mid-Atlantic and even potentially southern New England. Early March here, 5th, 6th time frame. Both models show a major low up there in Canada, bringing tons of snowfall to eastern Canada, by the way. But also this thunderstorm and severe weather threat for the eastern seaboard. As we keep going, we get colder conditions on this GFS model. I mean, it really doesn't warm up after that 6th time frame. It just stays very Arctic looking in the east here. And because of that, we get another clipper over Illinois, bringing Ohio Valley and Great Lakes snowfall. And even for Tuesday the 11th into Wednesday the 12th, mid-Atlantic and perhaps northeast snowfall. That's very, very far out. Take it with a grain of salt. Things are very likely to change. And even just yesterday, the model did not look that cold. So once you move beyond 10 days, that's where things get a little bit crazy. Obviously, the further out we go, it just escalates how much worse the accuracy is. You got to imagine, I mean, when we're starting right here, the model knows how strong this low is up here in Canada. It knows how low the pressure is out here in the Gulf. It knows all the conditions for everywhere. And it's really easy for it to predict what's going to happen given everything that's happening right now. Just a few hours later or 2 days later, it can kind of very accurately predict where things are going to go. But with this starting point, you got to imagine things just start to get crazy as it predicts this to happen a day later. So it takes that and predicts that it's going to go here the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. But if something was wrong on the 3rd day, like back here, then this is very likely to look different. So it's like the butterfly effect. There's just more things that can go wrong the more time that goes on. And if anything changes in the past, it changes everything in the future. So I don't know why I felt like breaking that down like that. Here's the total precipitation. The West Coast starts to get way crazier with precipitation, which, as we just saw, will come mostly in the form of snowfall for these mountains, which is going to be crazy. The East does look more active than the models did yesterday, so that's good news, and the National Weather Service is picking up on that as well. When we look at the anomalies, we're a lot less below average in the East here, even neutral or above average in some areas. The West looks crazy active, though. When we look at the total snowfall, we can see massive amounts out west for the mountains. I mean, this is crazy, especially the Cascade and Sierra Nevada, but even the Rockies do phenomenal. Skiing conditions are going to be perfect throughout March, April likely as well. Very, very good stuff. Lighter snowfall throughout the kind of northern plains, upper Midwest. The Great Lakes get quite a bit here. And then for the East, I mean, I know this is so disappointing, but we really just see the typical stuff here. I mean, it's just mountainous snowfall, interior snowfall, even some lake effect here. But this is just really lackluster as far as areas that need snowfall, seeing snowfall, we're just not seeing it. GFS model, we do get a little bit more in these areas that could definitely use a little bit more to get closer to their average, but still the highlight areas where they get plowable snowfall is going to be the usual suspects. As we look out west, a little bit less on this GFS model for snowfall, but definitely still impactful. Let's take a look at the European model's temperature anomalies. And I mean, we're colder for this morning. We're probably already above average today, Monday the 24th. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 25th, getting even warmer for most of the nation. Wednesday, very warm as well in the east. Thursday, same story, maybe even the warmest day here. And then Friday, we get a cold front that comes through and brings us back closer to normal, if not a little bit below normal in the east. But as you can see, much warmer in the central and western states for Friday the 28th. Saturday the 1st of March, it's very warm in the west, very warm in the southeast and mid-Atlantic areas. There's still some cold in the Great Lakes and New England areas. By Sunday, March 2nd, though, we get a massive cool down here in the east. That lasts a couple of days, but by Tuesday the 4th, we're warmed back up. Wednesday the 5th as well for the eastern seaboard, but you can tell colder temperatures are moving in. And by the 6th, that's basically taking place. I mean, it's over the east, but we see this growing cold trend out west, which is going to be more indicative of a negative PNA. So this should encourage some warmth back into the east for the days following. And as you can see, we eventually get to that by the 11th here. Warmer conditions over a lot of the east, and now a more full-blown negative PNA. Again, we're seeing parts of Canada, parts of the United States, parts of Mexico below normal. That is going to highly encourage warmth to just surge up here in the central and eastern states. When we look at the GFS, we're going to see much colder look. As you can see, I mean, we're warmer for these days, cooler for these days. It's going to get great agreement until we move into March. We get this cool down for the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Finally, it looks like some warmth is moving in to push this cool down out, but we get a big, like, 3, 4, 5 day cool down there between the 5th and the 12th. Obviously not the whole time, but a lot of those days are colder, and that is going to lead to a lot of interesting weather if we see that pan out. Obviously, some pretty big disagreement in the long range from the GFS and European model. So likely one of them's right, one of them's wrong. We will see. Europeans a lot more back and forth with those temperatures. The GFS were warmer for the end of February into very early March, but we cool right back down for a considerable amount of time on this GFS model. Time will tell which one is right. And of course, we upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. We can figure it out together. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.